So here we talk geopolitics on how Africa engaged its strategic partners from around the world, whether in North America, across the European Union, Asian partners like China, and more importantly, including the country of Russia, and some emerging powers like Turkey and other fringe powers across the European Union that you do not agree with, and some Middle Eastern partners. African countries are going through a transition, whether it's economic development, social collaboration, strategic partnership at the moment. That's the reason why their moves are not, at the moment, sitting alongside some of their strategic partners who have subjugated them for centuries. The case of Madagascar is a clear example. Madagascar, a country that was once considered one of Africa's strategic destinations, not just from tourism, but more importantly, it produced a unique product. Madagascar's own economic model was based on lack of inclusivity, extortion, corruption, lack of growth, lack of infrastructural development, lack of more strategic partnership. Madagascar was so close to countries that never provided them the alternative in terms of growth. The Madagascar model, based on France's own particular collaboration over the centuries, and more importantly, it was never fixed to put the people first. If you build policies that are meant to favor a few, if you build policies that only meant to favor the rich, and more importantly, forget about the youth and not factoring them into the growth and advancement, and if your foreign policies, if your economic model are aligned, are being pushed, are being directed by colonial policies and countries that never had you as a particular partner of interest in terms of your own success, then you'll be bound to fail. Madagascar was an example of a failed system that was incorporated from a colonial past, and the people of Madagascar have stood up and moving forward to making new fundamentals. The military of the country of Madagascar at the moment should be able to put the result, a country that cannot sustain its own electricity, and the president of the country have to run away, aided by, again, the country of France. It tells you that the reason why countries across the Sahel were severing this partnership, were serving the colonial military collaborations, which was never of their own particular interest. The case of Madagascar should go down in history as one of those countries, the continent of Africa, that failed to identify that it was about time to cut off ties with countries that never was of their own interest in terms of their growth and expansion. Madagascar has itself to blame, and the president of Madagascar should be ashamed with regards to his own achievement. If you look at his own performance, it was nothing to write home about. If you are this time, the 21st century, engaging and hanging on to partners who in the centuries ago consider you not to be as equal in terms of your collaboration and partnership, if you employ models that were not designed to carry out inclusivity, Madagascar was a system that was built on sand and huge corruption in the country of Madagascar. It is an embarrassing situation that people could feel sorry for the Madagascaran officials. I think that the parliamentarians and officials of the government in those countries too as well should be held responsible, because a number of them were supportive of that particular system. Madagascar has experienced some tremendous difficulties, and the economy with regards to growth, unemployment, and job creation was never the focus of the administration. So what happened in Madagascar had never come overnight. As we've covered here on this channel, African countries must be very careful on how they navigate this geopolitical environment and the complexity that we all are facing at the moment. As some big partners, big fishes, want to swallow the small fishes, as we all are saying, and are imposing their own particular will, and more importantly, they want their own individual interest to be heard in the global stage regards to global strategic collaboration. The partnership regards to Madagascar, it will go a long way to remember African nations that if you build your own system on colonial perspective, if you build your own system based on colonial fundamentals, if you build your system based on partnerships and also collaborations that has no particular focus in terms of the growth trajectory and employment creation and the incorporation of the masses and the voices of the country, then it's bound to fail. Madagascar, a former French colony, has faced tremendous difficulties over the years. As look at the leader who recently ran away from the country and was aided by the country of France. France's footprint across the continent of Africa has been questioned over and over. It keeps coming up. We see these rogue leaders who have been in this colonial relationship and partnership that does not pay them from the positive perspective. If you look at other investment in the continent of Africa, France cannot demonstrate incredible projects, cannot demonstrate some very important growth and investment that could be remembered by a number of countries across the region. So Madagascar was built on a failed system. Madagascar was built from a colonial model that never worked towards inclusivity, because that's the way the French system that's been rolled out across the continent of Africa, especially French-speaking countries. If you are building an economy, if you are building a system that only a few will be able to benefit, then there is just nothing to build. Madagascar faces incredible difficulties if you look at the growth of that economy. Madagascar's borrowing, looking at the high unemployment rate. So if you are developing your systems and you fail to factor in your youth, if you fail to build systems that incorporate, if you fail to build systems that replicate growth in other countries across the region and maybe copy to some of those partners, then you are bound to face these challenges. So the youth of Madagascar, as the government continues to unravel and figure out what the new leader in the country of Madagascar is up to, at this time, it goes back a long way to remind all our viewers that Madagascar is not a one-off. This will continue to happen across the continent of Africa for those countries that fail to recognize that the youth and the future generations are focusing on more important fundamentals that can transform their own future. Make no mistake, we are in the information superhighway at the moment, and African countries are paying attention, and their nationals and citizens have embraced geopolitics like never before seen. They are, at the moment, comparing, benchmarking their governments, benchmarking their officials, benchmarking their own particular policies alongside other countries around the world. So Madagascar, claiming that it will be able to create jobs, claiming that it will be able to partner with countries that provide them, or their relationship were based on colonial fundamentals, it was never going to work. Madagascar was a house built on cards. It was going to crumble. It was just a matter of time. This is a warning call for most countries across the region who fail to recognize that your geopolitical partners cannot dictate your growth and advancement at this stage. As we've seen the countries across the region, South Africa, Egypt, a whole other nation, Ghana and the rest are making some stride and breaking away from the status quo to look for other alternatives. Countries like Madagascar believed so much regards the model that was handed over to them during colonialism, and they never worked on it to reshape that particular model. The economic policy of Madagascar, the social policy of Madagascar, the economic fundamentals, the development, the growth strategy, the business environment, and more importantly, you cannot, at this stage, rely your economy just on tourism, and more importantly, look at the current vanilla being produced. The high corruption in the country of Madagascar was a huge fundamentals. You have government officials who eat fat, never think about the population, never think about hospitals, infrastructure, growth, development, advancements, social fundamentals. Whenever I think in the country of Madagascar, I think that the leader of Madagascar failed to, I would say he underestimated the youth of the country, because if you look at Madagascar's own institutions are putting out students in their numbers on a yearly basis who to an extent have all their own individual ambitions and want to achieve their full potential in a number of areas. So you cannot imagine that if your own former and your current policies are based on a colonial partnership model that never work, if your current policies are tied to the colonial fundamentals that was handed over to you, it's never going to work. If your current growth trajectory is tied to a monetary policy that is not of your own particular own benefits, it's never going to work. If your current dual strategic collaboration are with partners that cannot deliver, that cannot provide you the alternative at this critical time in African history, then it was bound to fail. So the situation in Madagascar was never going to be a one-off. It was just a matter of time, like I've pointed out. So the president leaving the country and the military taking over. Now, nobody wants to see the military take over the nation, but it comes to a period where there should be some element of stability, there should be some element of focus in the country. One thing is clear: if you continue to rely and listen to your geopolitical partners at this critical time in your history, then you are making a huge mistake. Countries like China have different model regards to growth and collaboration in the continent of Africa. Look at the European Union, and more importantly, the United States of America under Mr. Donald Trump at the moment has a particular strange kind of foreign policy that people are beginning to figure out what's actually going on. At the moment, the country of Madagascar is an example of countries that went so close to their former colonizers, and they thought that the policy that they are rolling out to their people would have been of benefit to their own economy. Madagascar was bound to fail. Madagascar was a country that was on a powder magazine regards to its own particular economic fundamentals. It is an embarrassing situation that if those leaders, according to their own military collaboration that they've had with the country of France, who in situations like that will ferry out the leaders out of those countries. It is about time that African leaders, those who cannot deliver, countries like Madagascar should be held accountable in a whole lot of other areas, because if you at this moment cannot make decisions that are based on the current macro environment of your country, if you cannot make decision, or if you align your particular growth and expansion strategy based on partners who are there to suck out everything, who are there to direct you, who are there to subjugate you, who actually never tolerated your growth in the past century, then you are bound to fail in terms of your own particular goal, and more importantly, to shape the future of your country. The case of Madagascar should be something that other nations across the region should be watching very closely, and more importantly, observe why some partners, geopolitical partners, should be let go. Some of those partnerships and collaboration, whether it's militarily, economically, or whatever it's necessary, should be cut off and go closer to partners who can offer the alternative. Let me know in the comment section what you think regards to why Madagascar, not just the economic, not just the social issue, not just the growth, it was a system that was built on the colonial fundamentals, and it was bound to fail, as we all have seen how these particular policies that were imported, that was never designed for the voice of the people of Madagascar and across other countries across the region, these policies will be bound to fail. I will be looking forward to meeting you soon in our next episode. Smash the like button and have a good day. Bye-bye.